Hello, everyone. Welcome to Power Up Your Productivity. This month's edition, we are going to actually be looking at what are you going to do to make sure that you are on track for your goals, or is it time for a recalibration? So many times what happens is we tend to set our goals in January or December or whenever you set them, and many times we just set them and then set them aside and they become like a hope or a wish, and we aren't being intentional about reaching them. The other thing that happens is that we start working towards them and working on them. Life happens, business happens, things start happening, and we lose sight of where we are in the pursuit of what we want to accomplish this year. So what I would like to do is talk about what happens at this point in the year. We're almost halfway through the year. What happens at this point to check and see where we are on the goals? So if you haven't set goals, let's talk about that. The other thing that happens is that you don't set goals because you're afraid of not reaching them or whatever might happen if that is the case. So let's hi. I'm trying to pin. There we go. So Susie, you're joining in, and we're just talking about looking at our goals and where we are in reaching them for the year, and how we need to possibly recalibrate at this point in the year. So what we're going to do is, number one, if you haven't set goals for this year, I'd like you to do a little review for yourself. And this is actually whether you've set goals or not. Let's do a review. So where are you on your journey towards your goals for the year? How many clients did you want to have at this point? Were there any programs that you wanted to have launched by this point? Were there ideas that you wanted to implement by this point? Was there a specific revenue goal that you have for the year? And where are you on reaching that at this point in the year, based on what you have planned for the remainder of the year? In order to look forward, we have to look back a little bit. So I want to encourage you to do a couple of things. Number one, go back and look at your goals for the year. What were they? And if we go by like a rule of three, you really should have no more than 3 big goals for a year. Because if you have more than 3, it's like if you focus on everything, you focus on nothing, right? That old saying, that adage that says that. So what I would like to do is have you, if you had more than 3, let's narrow it to 3, because likely you haven't made much progress on any of them, or you may have made progress on 1 or 2 of them. So what are the goals? What were the goals in January? If you didn't have any, what are your goals for the remainder of the year? Let's set something up. In order to set something up, you've got to look back. Like, where are you on your clients, on things that you wanted to implement or launch, and on revenue? Where are you?
Hot mess.
And who do you need to meet with, talk with, confer with, have a mastermind with, in order to figure out too what is next for you? Mm-hmm. So it's really important that we look at where we are. We look at where we want to go for the next 6-7 months. Next month, we're actually going to talk about re-entry, because many of you are taking vacations soon, including me. So we'll talk about that. That's why we're talking about this month. It's really important to figure out if we need to recalibrate at all on the goals, because sometimes we're ahead of where we wanted to be. I have a client this year who wanted to get to X number of dollars per month coming in. And if you have a business where you have that residual piece where there's a monthly, like people are paying you monthly, to for a membership or for your services. Like I pay my assistants a certain amount every month. I also pay my web people, my social media people, like a certain amount every month, right? So that's constant residual income for them. Okay, so she has that, this client that I'm talking about, and she wanted to get to about initially we were going to go for like a $4,000 a month increase by the end of the year. Well, what happened was she reached that within like 2 months because we had such intentional action around what she was selling, to whom she was selling, how they were upgrading, that kind of thing. And so when we got on our next call together, she goes, yeah, we had that goal, but I decided really quickly that was way too small. So now it's going to be this. And so really what it is, it's by the end of the year that we want that. So it's like, okay, so how do we add either $500 or $1,000 or whatever it is per month, every month for the remainder of the year, knowing that some people drop off, some people add on, like, how do we do it? And she's done it, and it's June.
That's amazing.
Right? So now the recalibration, right? So if we keep that up, what's happening now is that she's got these consistent clients. Now the recalibration is still about like, how do we keep adding the revenue so that her business keeps growing? But now we've got to add people, because now she ends up being short people. So what's happened is she had a contractor who was like our project manager, and he was managing a lot of stuff, including a couple of her people. And so she's bringing him on fully part-time and looking at how to make him like how quickly can she make him a W-2 where like she is his sole source of income and he works for her. And so that is hopefully what will happen by 2023. But you know, we have to recalibrate what the goal was to add this revenue. Well, now we've got a new issue.
Yeah.
We're going to keep adding the revenue, but we're also going to add the manpower, right? Because we can't put her underwater because she has to run the company.
Yep.
So what hopefully will happen is that she picks up the slack for a little bit before it all balances out. So this is what I mean by recalibration. That's just one small example. I've been talking to my project manager about what, not the end of the rest of this year, but really about next year, and how do we not run into some of the issues that we've run into this year for this time of year. And so how are we going to, even if you guys follow me at all, you know that the summertime is a lot lighter for me because I spend a lot of time outside. I hike, I golf, I almost said ski. I don't ski in the summer. I hike, I golf, I play tennis, and I travel a bit, but mostly I'm just outside and I'm around home, and I'll go see my parents now and then also. But I have a lot lighter schedule. I'm not doing a lot of launches. I'm not running a lot of the programming that I run the rest of the year. The free programming and the like the jump starts and the webinars. I'm not doing that in the summertime. So our conversation is, how do we actually make that really okay? And so we make the first half of the year, like probably, I want to say 75% of my income. And then I'm free to do what I do the next 4 or 5 months. And then we launch into how do we grow for the next year? And so that's kind of the strategy that we're looking at, because that's how I want to run my business. And whatever happens in the summertime becomes what I call gravy, right?
Yeah.
A nice little decorative surprise on top of my main course. So when you're looking at your goals, I want you to think about, where is the recalibration happening? If you're not where you wanted to be, that's okay too. Because again, life happens, business happens, like things don't always, imagine this, go according to plan.
What?
It's crazy. So if you are behind where you wanted to be, it's time to start thinking about, okay, so what is the recalibration? How am I going to either start making up a little bit of what I lost in one or the first 2 quarters, which is okay. You have time to do it. You have two and a third more quarters to get there. That's awesome. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. And if you want to change the goal and make it a little bit less, or just make it different, that's okay. Go ahead and do that, so that you don't feel panicked or stressed or overwhelmed trying to reach this astronomical goal that you have. When I talk about goal setting initially, I talk about having 3 tiers of a goal. So you might have your like stretch. I call it a stretch. Like it's reachable. It feels reachable, but it's still stretching me beyond what's comfortable and what I've done in the past, right? Because I want growth. And then I have my uncomfortable goal. Like, ooh, that, I don't know. Could I do that? Maybe. I don't know. Well, I'm going to write it down anyway.
Yeah.
And then I have what I call the pie in the sky goal. And that pie in the sky goal, you guys would be, that's like this client I was telling you about earlier. Like initially that 4,000 a month growth was pie in the sky. And then it was like, oh, nope, that's too small. Like we had to go bigger.
Yeah.
And so let's think about what, if you want to recalibrate in that way, if you're not quite where you wanted to be, how about setting 3 tiers? Have whatever the big one was be either the uncomfortable or the pie in the sky, and then just make an adjustment.
Yep.
And again, it doesn't all have to, it's all going to be about revenue, but the goal doesn't have to be the revenue goal.
Right.
The goal can be a client goal. The goal can be an implementation goal. The goal can be a growth goal in some fashion, because ultimately all roads lead to revenue.
Yep.
Period. They do. All roads lead to profit.
Yep.
All roads lead to revenue. And so what are the adjustments that you need to make? I just did a webinar last week, and we talked about what are some big ideas that you have, things that you know would move your needle forward that you haven't taken action on yet. This might be a question for you to ask yourself in order to start do something differently in order to get where you want to go. Because maybe you had this goal and you're like, now you're going, gosh, I have that goal and I don't see how I can make it. Well, maybe there's something you can, like, what is the thing you're sitting on? What is the big idea? What if we got going on that? And what if it didn't, what if the goal was to launch it by November or December, not make the money from it? Because then the money is going to come in 2023. Then that changes some other goals for 23. So I just kind of really want you to dig in to what is it that needs to shift, either up or a notch down, or are you right on track? If you're right on track, I'm thinking you might want that pie in the sky in front of you, because there's a lot of year left if you're right on track. I have several clients who are 40% ahead of where they were last year. And it's all due to intentional action. It's all due to, hey, I'm setting this. These are the things I want to implement. Here's how I'm going to reach the people. Here's how I'm going to market. And they're doing it instead of thinking about it. And now all of a sudden, let's qualify that, right? Nobody's overnight sensation, right? So they are now 40% ahead of where they were a year ago. That's crazy. That, I'm guessing, is going to cause them to recalibrate their goals, because if they're already 40% ahead, they're really far ahead for growth and for where they initially set their goals for the year, because things are starting to happen. And the other thing I want you to consider, this is the last tip that I'll give you about kind of this goal projection for the remainder of the year, because we have to, again, look back to look forward. The other thing I want to remind you about is something that I talk about a lot in my programming is the 90-day rule, which is that things that you are putting into motion now aren't really going to come to fruition until 3 months from now, as a general rule. That's kind of your average, right? So if you're thinking that things aren't taking hold as of June end of May, beginning of June, I would like you to look back 30, 60, 90 days. What have you been doing that could now grab hold? Because you're going to start reaping the fruits of that labor if you have been consistent and you keep on doing the things. Because what happens is we get really impatient. So even if you're not where you wanted to be right now, what have you been doing the last 30, 60, 90 days that could really grab hold as the summer comes? Because that patience piece is huge. And don't stop. Don't give up. Don't stop. Stay persistent, stay consistent, and stay intentional in your action. Stay in action. Don't stop. I'm leaving the country for a couple of weeks coming up here, and my team has a whole plan of how do we stay visible? How do we stay in action, even though I am not here and I am not packing my computer, right? So what do we do? What are things that you can put into motion? Things that you can implement? Even if you're not here, you can schedule social media out and you can stay visible without having your fingers on it every second that you're gone. You can do that. So this whole thing about goals and goal setting is about how are you staying persistent, consistent, and intentional action. And check in. Where are you? Because I don't want you to have those goals be a wish or hope. I want you to have them be there for a reason. And if we take a minute to take a look at where we are, where we wanted to be, where we are, and where we want to go, then you're going to have some really strong thoughts and actions that you can take in order to get where you want to go. And you can make those adjustments. You can tweak where you want to go along the way. That's all I have for you. Susie, do you have any questions? Is there any comments or questions? Anything coming up for you?
I really love the 90-day approach or the 90-day rule.
Yeah.
That is helpful. I just wrote a ton of notes down from all of that. So
Awesome.
Getting me to think about what I want to put into place and where I'm at and checking in. That's important.
Yeah,
I don't think that's enough.
I think we get so caught up in the doing that we just don't check in. We don't even go into our QuickBooks. If we have a bookkeeper, we don't even go into QuickBooks to see where we are. Like, where am I compared to last year? Where am I compared to where I wanted to be this year? Like, we don't even check in. And we're not looking at, well, how many people did I want to serve? How many people did I want in each of these programs? Where did I want to be? And where do I want to be come quarter 3, quarter 4? We're not looking. And so if we're not looking, we're not informed.
Right.
And the fastest way to go downhill is to be uninformed about your own business.
Definitely.
So thank you for those comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, that is it for Power Up Your Productivity this month. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again soon. Please start looking out for where we will be in a month.